Texas State Representative Jake Ellzey won last night's special election runoff in Texas's 6th District. He will succeed late Congressman Ron Wright, who died in February after contracting the coronavirus. Ellzey defeated Wright's widow, Susan Wright, in the runoff, even though she ran with former President Trump's endorsement. It is the first time a candidate backed by the former president has lost an election since Mr. Trump left office. For more, I want to bring in Dallas Morning News political writer Gromer Jeffers. Hi there, Gromer. It's so good to see you. All right, so let's talk about what the landscape looked like. Go ahead, Gromer.
No. I was just saying hello. It's great to see you as well.
I know. For people who haven't seen Gromer on for a while, our regular viewers will know he was a staple of our election coverage. So it's great to talk to you again because you know what the landscape looks like in Texas. Gromer, tell us, when it came to polling, what did that actually look like ahead of this election for Texas's 6th district? Because as I was reading your piece on this, it was some interesting sort of alliances that formed to back the various candidates, and people that, you know, folks not familiar with Texas politics might not necessarily expect to line up for or against a certain candidate. So explain that to us.
Right. Yeah, because Susan Wright was the front runner almost from the beginning of this race. And you know, polling is tough in just a single congressional district. But in some of the independent polls that we had done, she was leading, not by a whole lot, but she was leading. And her campaign released last week, publicly released an internal poll. And I never really put stock in internal polls, Elaine, because they're from the candidate. But the internal poll had her 12 points ahead. So she was the clear front runner. As you mentioned, she was Ron Wright's widow, and had everything going for her, particularly Donald Trump's endorsement. But what she failed to do is sort of make the case that she was more than like a widow candidate and more than a candidate with Trump's endorsement. And you are right. Former Governor Rick Perry endorsed Jake Ellzey. Former Representative Joe Barton, who represented that district for 34 years, he endorsed Ellzey as well, in part because of the sort of the vicious Club for Growth ads that attacked Ellzey during the cycle. So it was a battle between really the local guys, Rick Perry, led by Rick Perry, against Donald Trump, who quite frankly didn't know what he was getting into.
Yeah, really just so fascinating to read about how that all happened. So now, Gromer, how are former President Trump's allies explaining Susan Wright's loss despite that endorsement?
Well, Trump is basically saying, he told another outlet that, well, you know, Susan Wright won the first round. She finished first, and 2 Republicans made the runoff, because it was an open primary. Democrats, Republicans, a Libertarian, and an Independent ran in May, all in the same primary. So he's trying to take credit for 2 Republicans making the runoff and kind of ignoring the loss. He does concede that he was talked into the endorsement by Club for Growth president, you know, David McIntosh. And I guess his team is conceding that maybe he didn't know enough about the race. At least that's what some of his Trump supporters on the ground are saying. But he clearly estimated Ellzey. But go ahead, Elaine.
Yeah, well, because I think what's also interesting here is the fundraising. So Jake Ellzey's campaign collected twice as much from small donors than Susan Wright's campaign did. What does that say about Ellzey's support?
It said it was strong. He was underestimated. He's a former Navy pilot, a combat veteran. He's a sitting state representative with a district inside the congressional district. So we're talking about, you know, 15 to 18,000 votes right there. That's inside his state house district. So Trump should have known all along, and anybody else looking at the race, that Ellzey was a formidable candidate. But I'm told by people close to the process of Trump making his endorsement that he felt like the candidate who's a widow should be able to win, and that his endorsement would put her over the top. You know, he was in town, Elaine, for CPAC Dallas earlier this month, boasting about his record of endorsements in Republican congressional primaries. He says it's something like 120 to 2. Well, now it's 120 to 3.
All right. Well, former President Trump has also endorsed Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who has been an unflappable ally. Now, Paxton is being challenged by George P. Bush, Governor Jeb Bush's son. Bush has broken with his family and supported Mr. Trump. But, Gromer, why might the former president have thrown his support behind Paxton?
Well, it's a natural from where Trump is sitting, because if you remember, Paxton filed the lawsuit as Texas Attorney General, filed a lawsuit with the Supreme Court trying to overturn the election results in several battleground states. That lawsuit was, of course, tossed out, wasn't heard by the court. But Paxton filed that suit. He led that effort. And he's been a long-time ally and a close ally of the president. So it was kind of understood that Trump at some point would endorse Paxton, even though he's in battle under federal investigation for allegations of bribery and under indictment for securities fraud. That indictment is about 6 years old. Nevertheless, it was expected that Trump would endorse Paxton, even though George P. Bush went down to Mar-a-Lago, reached out to the former president, and fought hard to get his endorsement. But it didn't work. Trump lined up with Paxton as expected. There's another person in the race, too, former Texas Supreme Court Justice Eva Guzman. But that endorsement, Trump's endorsement, should help Paxton. This is a statewide race. And in the Republican primary, even though he lost last night with Wright, Trump is still formidable at this point. But we'll see what happens between now and when the primary is held.
Yeah. Finally, Gromer, Governor Greg Abbott has called up the Texas National Guard to assist law enforcement at the U.S.-Mexico border. What is his rationale, and what else can you tell us about his focus on the issue of immigration?
Well, interesting development. One, Abbott is trying to make border security a top issue. He faces a primary challenge next year, a primary challenge from his right. His critics are arguing that he hasn't done enough as it relates to border security. But when you think about it, he says he's going to finish building Donald Trump's wall. And I think he wants to put this in President Joe Biden's court. He wants to push Biden to do more to secure the border. There are about 189,000 illegal border crossings in June alone. And Abbott is trying to bring attention to this and also exploit it as a campaign issue.
All right. Gromer Jeffers of the Dallas Morning News. Gromer, it is so great to talk to you again. Thank you so much.
Oh, always great to talk to you, Elaine, my red to blue buddy, right?
That's right.
That's what we called
exactly.
it in the last cycle, right? Red to blue.
That's right. I do remember that, Gromer. Your mug is in the mail, by the way, I'm told.
All right.
All right, Gromer, take care.
All right, take care.
Take care, Gromer. Thank you.